Hey everyone, Corey from Aquarium Co-op, Big Steen of Steenfott Aquatics, next door to me now. But we're talking African cichlids. Hopefully you guys have brought your questions, and hopefully we can bring some answers. What do I have? Oh, obviously, looks different behind, right? Well, we spent all day, well not all day, but most of the day. Oh, we got feedback going. We spent most of the day moving the tank that was kind of right behind here. And so now there's nothing. There's paint on the wall you can see here. These are paint choices that I'm going with that we're going to paint and redo this entire room. There might be kind of an echo. Lighting's different. Lots of stuff is different. No voice, huh? No, there's voice. I got voice.
I got voice.
Yeah. So I don't know what the chat's saying, but there is voice. Maybe you're muted or something like that. So
we heard it, so
yeah, exactly. There might be something going on with my connection. It says my connection's a little bad tonight, so if it is, not a lot I can do. There's a storm going on, but yeah, that's where we're at. Mostly just waiting for people to start hitting us with some questions. While we're waiting, let's do a giveaway. We've got, this came from Solid Gold Aquatics. This is her calendar. I ordered a calendar and she sent me an extra calendar, and so you get, all the pictures, and I'm gonna hang one here up in the studio. But to win this, you have to go to Bob's channel and you have to subscribe and comment on, what video is it? It's the day in the fish room
2017.
Yeah, so it's from what, Wednesday? Is that when you put it out?
Yesterday.
So if you go look at Bob's video from yesterday and you comment and you subscribe, then you have a chance to win this. He's going to use something to pull it, and the winner, he'll ship it out. So, yeah.
And just to let you know, the comments that are already there are not qualified. So it's only going to be your guys' new comments.
There you go. So if you want to win this calendar, I think she said there's only a few left to even buy, but go buy one if you haven't already. I've got mine. There's kind of a lot of cool pictures in there. Some telescope or butterflies. They're all her fish. She took all the pictures, I thought was pretty cool. So, yeah. It is super bright in here, but also it was crazy dark before we put this extra light up. So last minute we had to get more light, and that's what we ended up with. Long term, we will definitely get this more dialed in, but this is what we had to do for today. Massive changes went on here today. So
I want to address this comment from Thomas. He says, I look tired. It's because I am tired. My mom had a water line burst in her house at 1 a.m, so I was there all morning. So yes, I'm pretty tired.
So Michael's Fish Room asks, what room are we in? We're in the normal room. Normally there's aquariums and stuff in here. This is the studio. We've changed it this much today, so it's a massive difference. But I am seeing some cichlid questions start to come in. So it says, Corey or Bob, best source for Yellow Labs breeding stock. Where are you going for it? I know I'm not going to the place I bought my last ones.
No, I wouldn't either. I would go to my standard cichlid source, which is cichlidlovers.com. He imports a lot of wild caught. So
if I was more patient, which I wasn't at the time, but if I was, I personally would look on Aquabid and find the person I like and then ask for more pictures of their breeding stock. I used to breed them quite a bit, and I had a great line going, and I got rid of them probably 7-8 years ago, but I really line bred them, and they were awesome. They had like very thick black dorsals, and the
3 females to 1 male.
Yeah, for some weird reason it like cut out. I don't know what the problem is, but hopefully we can get this going back in here. For some reason the encoder like totally cut out. But we'll see. We'll keep going. Let's see here. Lots of people having problems. Something went on in the storm. Don't know what to say. But we can keep answering questions here. Can peacocks go with a southern painted turtle? I mean, it could happen, but I feel like the turtle's got to be smart enough to evade the peacock's got to be smart enough to evade the turtle, and the turtle's constantly going to hunt them. At least, Lamont used to keep some African cichlids and turtles, and it worked out okay, but clearly there were predators and non-predators in that tank. Babies were getting eaten if anyone got weak. Kept the Africans on their toes, and it was an amazing display, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, we're back. Yeah, it's, something with the encoder went down. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but we're back, and that's all that's important. And we're giving stuff away, so... can shell dwellers be kept with other fish like rainbows?
I would say if you want a rainbow type fish, you can do like the Tanganyikan killifish. I think that would be a good combo.
I think you could pull off like the dwarf neon rainbow.
Yep. I think it can be done.
Like I probably wouldn't do pseudomoguls, like the smallest rainbow with them. And I don't know that tank size, right? 125 gallon tank. If I had all multis across the bottom, I bet I could do a lot of rainbows up top because they don't really go that low.
Nope.
And they could eat the same food. They're all carnivore, pretty heavy carnivores. So, yeah, I think it could be done. What's the minimum tank size? But for what? Okay, what plants can go in an African cichlid tank without them eating it? When you replied to my comment, you said there was some. Do you do any live plants with yours?
So I actually have really good success with jungle val.
Mm-hmm.
And then any like broadleaf. I've done well with crypts and anubias.
I've done well with crypts too, but I never recommend it because I'm afraid it's always gonna like turn out badly. But it's always worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get the one cichlid that just hates it and tears them up, but you can have success with it too. I would try if you have like little. You don't want them too little, but if you got like runners from crypts you already have, throw them in there and see if they like them.
That's always my best success is getting the plants established, then put the cichlids in. Works out awesome. Otherwise, I got to replant them 10 times and then it'll work. But like right now, I've got like with the crypts and the mollies, there's those trophius, and they ate up all the hair algae for me, so they actually help quite a bit. They also plucked up a couple of the crypt parva I have in there, but that's for me an accepted loss. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. Are peacocks not popular in your area?
I would say most cichlids are not popular here.
Our water is so adverse to it that most people, are scared to try it, I guess. And the funny part, from a store owner standpoint, I find weird is that everyone's super afraid and doesn't want to change the water for African cichlids, and yet live bearers, they don't care at all, and yet they really want the same water. So it's like, I don't get it. I watch people struggle with live bearers because they're not willing to change their water, and then I watch people with Africans, they don't change the water, and the fish are so hardy they don't struggle. So it doesn't make sense by any means, but that's just the way it is. So hatchet fish with shellies, I haven't tried it, but I bet it could work. The problem is, I think, really where's that line of pH and hardness? Because I think all hatchet fish, at least in the U.S., are going to be wild caught. Maybe like in Germany or something, they're captive raising them, but I know I've done guppies and stuff. I've done tetras. I've done danios. I've done a lot of things with shell dwellers, but it's really hard for me to say like that's totally going to work because it might not. And then you're going to go and hatchet fish aren't cheap. Like they could mow through like $75 pretty quick if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So what's our opinion on the fish police ranting to people on never mixing different Africans?
I've been yelled at quite a bit, but no one can explain. So I'll be like, okay, well, what was your experience and what went bad for you? And all the answer I get is, it's just not a good idea, but nobody can tell me why. Yeah. And I haven't experienced any problems with it, so.
So my opinion on the fish police in general is I just don't like fish police. That being said, even when I'm answering questions, sometimes I'll catch myself saying you can't do that, and the reality is I'm not saying you can't do that. It's that I actually backspace it out, and usually I say this is what I would do, and I haven't had luck doing that. But everything changes. You take a 10,000 gallon aquarium and you put predator haps and neon tetras in there, and somehow it's going to work. You take it to a 125 and it's a bloodbath, or you take predator haps, neon tetras, and guppies, and somehow the neons live because the guppies are slower and they're too busy eating those, but they're reproducing fast enough that it's not running out. I think a million things can be done. it's all based on the experience of the person. So I think a lot of times, if you're asking whether something can be done, a lot of times the answer is, if you're asking that question, probably you shouldn't be doing it. You know, whereas like I don't think Bob would ask on a Facebook forum, can I put these African cichlids and these neon tetras together? Because you just know, like, I'm gonna catch so much fish police anger coming at me. I would never ask. I would just do it, and then if it works, then I get to say, like, look what's working.
Yep.
So I think that's the problem, is we come down too hard on people that don't know, you know, like basically force them not to try stuff. But then as everyone advances later in life as a fish keeper, they try so many things based on maybe they had to move and downsize the tank, or a lot of people, like, my tank was leaking, I added them together, turns out it worked fine. And so then if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is kind of what happens a lot of times. Do you do any loaches with your cichlids?
I don't, but you certainly can.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite pairings, actually, is like yellow labs. Like, one of my ultimate tanks is yellow labs, Pseudotropheus demasoni, and then clown loaches. Like, because you kind of get that black and yellow, then you get black and blue on the demasoni, and then you get orange and black on the clown loaches, and it looks awesome. A little bit iffy on the food. You got to make sure you kind of run the middle of the line, because you don't want to feed like a lot of bloodworms to the clown loaches, and then your demasoni and stuff are eating that. They're a little more herbivore than anything else. So let's see. Here we go. This might be for you. Anyone have breeding recommendations on feather fins? Scored a reverse trio at a club auction. I've got an empty 36. Could I put the 3 or just the 2? Reverse trio, so 2 males and a girl. Have you done any breeding of yours yet?
Not of the feather fins.
I've only done it once, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. They're in a tank that where if they do breed, everything would just get eaten anyways. So,
if it was me personally and I had that trio, I would keep them in a trio and try to breed them in there. And if it really wasn't working, I'd remove one. But the problem you might run into is that when you get fish that are fighting, usually they're just fighting to fight. So if you have a male that's super aggressive, he's going to spend all his time harassing another male. But if you take that other male out, a lot of times he'll spend all that time harassing the female, and then you get a weak female that dies off. So I would try the trio there, even though it's not optimal, see how it goes, then try removing one. If that doesn't work, then I would be keeping them in 3 different tanks, and I'd only put them together to breed and then split them back up. And then once you had a brood to raise up, which that's the brutal part, right, is the featherfin cichlid from fry to breeding age is like 2.5 years. That's the brutal part.
Yep.
But once you had your first batch of fry, then you could make any group you wanted to. And that's just why you don't see them that often, is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous fish at adulthood. But when you breed it to the time you can sell it, it like... At 18 months, it's still just a silver cichlid that's like this big that no one wants to pay $20, $30 for. And you're going, you know how long it took to make that thing? So that's why they're not around. It's like people selling their front toes after they grow them up. Most people don't because they put in the time. So
I think that's kind of a way a lot of the Tanganyikans do. They're just all slow growers.
Yeah, you don't really see like adult Calvis and stuff like that for sale either because it's such a slow grower. What Africans would you recommend to beginners that have never kept Africans before?
Boy, I don't know that there's any that are like super easier than others. I think they're all pretty hardy and easy.
I think in terms of like of a fish, African cichlids can tolerate more abuse than your average fish. I also think they can dish more abuse sometimes. Like they can definitely be like, more aggressive or something like that. My best advice, like if you actually knew nothing and you didn't have like a great African cichlid store down the road from you, I would say go to cichlidforum.com or Google African cichlid cookie cutter setups. They've got a website that's awesome where it's like you kind of pick your tank size, and then they say like you could try this group or this group or this group, and that will give you a good base to go from. But realize that's all someone's opinions. Like I've definitely done other things and stuff like that and it's worked out. But if you know nothing, those cookie cutter setups are a great place to start, and then you could adapt from there. Because mostly they're telling you, if you have a 55, stick to 4 species and this many groups, where a lot of people get a 55 and then they just buy 20 assorted Africans from PetSmart, and it's kind of like, oh, there's always aggression issues and maybe something dying. So yeah.
So the way I did it when I first got into cichlids is I went to the cichlid forum and kind of spent weeks there going through all the species profiles, and I only picked cichlids that were listed as peaceful or semi-aggressive. None of the aggressive species, because I knew that would be a lot harder to control just right out of the gate.
Yeah, and that's, even a peaceful, like a yellow lab typically is listed as peaceful. You can still have ones that are just like, oh my god, he ripped my arm off. Like, there's always that variation with African cichlids, and I think that's part of what makes it so alluring to people. Like, when you see someone that they've got their all-male show peacock tank, you're just like, man, I know that's like a war of attrition for that person to get to that point. You're almost envious of like, how much work did that take? That being said, I don't keep them that way just because I'm usually always trying to breed. That's my goal always, is I just want to make more stuff.
Yeah, I like having females in with mine.
So yellow labs and red top hongai only. How many of each in a 46 bow? 46 bow. I personally would probably do like a group of 8 of each.
Yeah, I would do at least 6 of each.
Yeah, and then I think those two can crossbreed because I think they're both Labotropheus, right? Not Labotropheus. Yeah, I think they're both Labotropheus. Trying to think. Ceruleus? That's yellow lab, but I think they can cross. So be careful if you're going to breed in there. Which leads into a good segue. Bear Cichlid says, what's our take on hybrid fish? I personally try to avoid it.
I try to avoid it too. I mean, if your goal is to hybridize fish and you're trying to, like, this is not really as much with Africans, but like guppies and shrimp. If your goal is to make new strains, then I'm okay with that. But if you're throwing fish in and they're hybridizing and crossbreeding and then you're trying to sell those fish, you really don't know what they are, and that's what I'm against.
Yeah, I think, so for instance, if we cross a yellow lab with something else and then I sell them as yellow labs for the next 10 years, I'm ruining the yellow lab. But if someone buys, a super red peacock and we've crossed it to make that, we kind of know a lot of the peacocks might be hybridized. That being said, typically in the past, I was a sucker for wild-caught stuff. So I wanted lawandas, I wanted, red shoulders, I wanted, so I wanted the pure stuff so that when I bred it, I knew it was pure, as opposed to, well, what do you really have? I don't know. It looks really cool, though. That being said, I did dabble in some of the German red strains and stuff, but in general, that's why I liked wild-caught. A lot of people ask, like, why do people value wild-caught? Because if I'm going to spend so much time and energy into it, I want to make sure that when I get to the end of the rainbow, it's not all for nothing, I guess. And at that time, I was working in a store and we were selling it, so we had a good reputation on fish, and we had to protect that. So, most demanding cichlids you've ever kept?
None of them have been really demanding. I don't know. I'd probably have to think about that one.
I feel like it's the Victorian mouth brewer. I feel like I had to feed those things 1,000,000 times a day to keep them from not beating each other down.
Yeah.
Which they're a West African, by the way.
I would say definitely my Pseudocretin labiatus, or however you say that.
Yeah, so
not the multicolored Victoria, but the other one, the Nicholas.
Yeah, which is the same. It's almost the same exact fish, but they were high strung and they would beat on them. Wow, it's like it restarted or something. Should be. Yeah, look at this. I don't know what's going on with our stream here. I think the internet. Hopefully it'll get going again. It's brutal. Let's see. So I apologize for the live stream. Don't know what I can do. I've been having internet problems all day though. Most peaceful for a 20 is Shelley's. Most peaceful African cichlids. Is that true? Sounding true. I can't think of much else.
Are you asking for the most peaceful cichlid to put in a 20 gallon?
Yeah, in a 20. I can't think of many good other candidates for a 20 is the problem that aren't Shelly's. I mean, I guess like maybe some of the dwarf compressiceps and stuff. Oh, no. What about...
You could do the parasips.
That, and what about, my brain doesn't work, Julidochromis and Telomatochromis.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that breed Julies and
and most peaceful. Yeah, I was going to say Burchardi, but Burchardi are not peaceful by any means.
I'd stay away.
Yeah. Let's see, what else we got? What do you guys think of pre-packaged substrate mixes like Carib Sea Lake Mix for maintaining water conditions, particularly in a place with soft water like Washington?
Going forward, when I set up new African tanks, that's the stuff I'm going to be using. I probably won't be using that, but I'll definitely be using like crushed coral or aragonite, whatever's cheaper at the time.
So I sell it, and I like it. When I do my tanks, it's not that I can't afford it. It's that because I buy so much substrate, it's cheaper for me to make it. So I do what Bob's going to do, and that is take the sand I like, which is a coarser sand. You've seen in a lot of our tanks. And then take crushed coral and mix that. And I think if you go back to like the 240-gallon tank that we did where you filmed when we set it up over here before we brought it over to your house, that's what we did. And that's what I do on almost all my tanks. You know, in a perfect world, if someone could drop it off by the pallet at my house, sure, don't get me wrong. Like, yes, definitely. Carib Sea, if you want to drop a pallet of Rift Lake cichlid mix off, I would enjoy it. So for sure, I would like it. Cichlid Addicted says if you buy a Doberman, you expect it to be a Doberman and not a Doberman pit bull. It's true.
It's a good analogy.
Exactly. You want, especially if you think you're buying something true. And I actually think it's hard right now to go and find like a never hybridized red zebra or yellow lab. I think it's actually pretty difficult to find one. Just because I find a lot of mixed stuff out there. So... Christian, how many female peacocks can I put in the aquarium with males? What ratio do you like to maintain?
I always try to do the 2 to 3 females per male.
Yeah, that's where I start. But when I was breeding, so I need to find video and pictures because I used to have all this stuff. But I wasn't documenting it back then. I was just working, right? But I used to do lots of 55-gallon tanks on racks. And then I always wanted like 2 males and as many females as I could buy. Because I was like a farm, right? So if I had 10 females holding and they're all going to spit 30 to 50, that means every month I'm producing like 500 fry out of these things. And extra males, if I only had one, sometimes I got lazy and wouldn't breed or couldn't breed with all of the females. And 2 males would alleviate some of the pressure. Because what happens when you're breeding Africans is once you've got 10 females with mouthfuls, he still wants to breed, but there's no ladies to breed with. So you got to keep him busy somehow, unless you're moving males out, and that gets to be a lot of work because you're pulling, and they're not all gonna carry at the same time, right? So it's not gonna be like, each one takes a mouthful that day, and so you're pulling them out, and you're trying to keep track and stuff like that. So I found that was my preferred ratio: is 2 boys and as many girls as I could buy. And when I was buying fry, so like if you were at a store and they all have like 1.5 to 2 inch fish, I would buy 1 female that some of those females are going to color up. Because if you buy I'll buy 4 males, pretty soon now you've got 9 males and 5 girls, So, and that's a problem, by the way, if you don't know that.
Yeah, so I specifically limit it to 2 to 3 because that's about all I can handle as far as raising and finding homes for them.
Yeah, and I was... At that point, I mean, because I worked for a store and we could just liquidate everything through a store and it was more of a business, that's why I treated it that way. So almost as many female mouthfuls as you can handle is how many I'd put in there. Here we go, some Tanganicans. I have 4 Calvis, but they are always hiding. I thought it was because the Transcriptus I had in there were very aggressive, but I've removed all my Transcriptus and yet the Calvis are still hiding.
I mean, my Calvis hide a lot, but they also come out a lot. So I find that it's one or the other. I would say they definitely hide more than they're out, but I would be curious to see what other fish are in there. Because generally my Julies don't bother don't bother them at all. So.
As we were just saying, I think they're more laid back than anything else. The way I would fix that, or I'd be attempting to fix that, is get some fish that are more out and about always. Is that a tetra? Is it a rasborid? Is it a danio? Is it a live bear? But in general, when fish are hiding, either A, there's not enough hiding spots, and so it's like you pulled up to work, there's 3 parking spots and 300 employees, you're not leaving for lunch. You'll never get that parking spot back. So sometimes there's not enough hiding spots. They don't want to leave their parking spot, so sometimes putting in more stuff, which seems counterintuitive. I run into a lot of people that don't realize that they're hiding. Let me take more spots away. That just makes them hide. Now they're hiding behind a filter and stuff like that. Like they obviously they don't feel secure. When they feel secure, you don't hide. And so that's what I've found for the most part. I mean, there's going to be fish that are just nocturnal and stuff, but they don't feel secure because the light's on. That's another point, right? They could be on like the surface of the sun in that aquarium. If it's so bright and they feel like they're out in the open, that might be a stress factor.
Well, the other thing is, calvus hang out in the rocks in the wild. That's where they eat.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of where they normally hang out at anyways.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of bought a cave/rock-dwelling cichlid, and then you're kind of going, hey, they're hanging out in the caves or rocks. Like, that's what they do. So
yeah, that's why their bodies are contoured that way, is because they get into the rocks to eat fry.
Yeah, and their mouth is made to get between the rocks and to suck everything out. So, before I forgot that we're doing... if anyone that buys anything tonight, you're getting a free bag of... Well, that's not anyone. The first 20 people get a free bag of freeze-dried bloodworms. I ordered a bag of bloodworms that's like the size of Bob. I ordered 4.4 kilos of freeze-dried bloodworms. And freeze-dried bloodworms don't weigh very much.
No.
So it was like a cartoon is like the UPS guy is like bringing in this big box through the door. And I'm like, what is this? Oh, it's an insane amount of freeze-dried bloodworms. So my employee Kaylee said, hey, you want me to bag some of those up and we'll give some away? And I said, sure, why not? She said, well, we had these bags that we were testing out that were a little small. We ended up going the next size up for what we're going to ship. And we had 20 of them left. So the 20 people from whenever we started the live stream till whenever 20 people buy, which, if no one ever buys again, we'll have them forever. But I'm guessing that'll sell tonight. But it's a pretty decent-sized portion of bloodworms for sure. So, yeah. Let's see. Is Geophagus a type of cichlid? It is, just not an African cichlid. South American, right? Yeah?
Yep. Looks like Braden has a question for you.
Ooh, what did I miss?
It's not African cichlids related, but...
So he's got blue rams. They're always fighting. How do I break it up? Typically, blue rams, where people go wrong is they're not keeping enough. I recommend groups of at least 6 or more. The problem is people go, that's expensive. And then I go, well... such as animals, that's the problem, right? Like, well, yeah, but when you get a bunch of them, then they tend to do better. And they, talking with, oh God, who came out? Mike Weiss? Is that who he is? Is he the pistol guy? I feel like it is. I could be wrong, but he used to breed quite a bit. And then Dean from the club, we did his fish room. He breeds a lot, and he always colony breeds them. And they're so much more docile in the colony. And same in the store. When I have a few of them, someone's getting bullied. When I got 25 in the tank, they're super chill.
And that relates directly to African cichlids too.
Yeah, managing aggression. So we could talk about that. The best way I explain aggression is, like in my own house right now, because I own it, I'm very aggressive and protective of it. But if I was to stay at a hotel, as long as someone doesn't enter my super small personal space, the hallways, all the common areas, I'm not worried about it. And that's what I feel like African cichlids do. If they get their own territory to set up houses, very protective. If there's enough coming and going and stuff like that happening, they don't freak out that someone's walking down the hall. But if someone walks down my hall, I'm screaming it's a ghost or something, like I'm freaked out. But at the hotel, you're just going, dang it, keep it down, I'm trying to sleep.
And that's why when I add new Africans to my established tanks, if there's any aggression, then I'll rearrange the entire hardscape.
Yeah, so that's a good point. When you add Africans, my best tips are rearrange everything. So every rock and stuff like that's a pillar. Imagine it's like moving the fence in your yard. It rearranges, and pretty soon it's like, I had more yard or less yard. And but every rock, everything's a pillar. Like you come across that rock, I'm going to punch you in the eye. And if you move that rock, they don't know they own that rock anymore. And so I like to rearrange everything, I also like to always add, personally, at least 6 Africans at a time. Because when you add, if you have 50 Africans, you add 1. Usually it's not too good for that 1. So I like to add at least 6. And then I also like to do a partial water change because the new water coming in will have a bunch of different scents. So they don't instantly smell, hey, that's a female red empress, red empress, as opposed to, oh, there's fluoride in the water, there's dechlorinator, there's all these things. And then I also do like a big feeding, like here's a bunch of floating pellets, everyone get a big old mouthful, and then put my fish in. So they're gonna run up to them, and they've got a big old bite of pizza. They can't really talk too much crap. So those are my tips. What I don't do, and I see this recommended all the time, and this is my my fish police thing based on my experience. I don't like turning the light off because what fish do in my experience, the minute the light goes out, let me go find somewhere to sleep. It forces them to go check out the caves, and I've watched it in my experience where they go check out a cave, that's taken, they get bitten. They go to the next cave, that's taken, they get bitten. And so when I leave the light on, if anything, I'd leave the light on that night. They're out and about and looking for food, and everyone's on the go as opposed to settling in for the night.
Makes a lot of sense.
But I've met lots of breeders that recommend the exact opposite. All I can do is that's what didn't kill my hundreds and hundreds of dollars of investments, and I learned that from, oh man, I woke up to 2 dead peacocks that I just bought versus, oh, I didn't. I'm gonna try it this way. The other thing I recommend, definitely, do not float the bags. Because you've got all these aggressive cichlids and you're just floating them there, and there's aggression happening kind of between the windows, and I think it's super duper stressful for the fish that are in the bag, and they're already going to have a crazy stressful time once you release them. So I like to do it in a bucket or something like that. That was kind of a long side thing on acclimating fish, but it definitely is all African related. So are your Africans holding? Is this one question that is very different? Is one question that is very different to a fish keeper? It's true. Yeah, context for sure. Which leads me to another rant, which I haven't. I've got enough of those out today, apparently. I can't stand it when people call African cichlids ACs. Because for me, I own Aquarium Co-op. I'm like, are they talking about Aquarium Co-op? And I swear, and maybe I'm just out of it, but I swear people calling it AC only came around on like Facebook and stuff. Like I used to never see it. It was always Africans or cichlids or African cichlids, but not ACs. Like we're starting to shorten things so much that new people have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Well, you gotta fit everything to 140 characters now.
Well, sure,
That's
on
life.
Twitter, but on Facebook. But I swear I've seen like sentences where so many things have been abbreviated. Even I'm like, I have to sit there and like decipher like what was actually just typed. So, yeah,
I'm gonna do that now in all your videos.
yeah, exactly. Go to ac.com, aquariumcoop.com, AC short for that.
Can I get ACs at ACs?
That's right. Do you sell ACs at ACs? I'll get some AC going on. It's probably too hot in the AC room. Oh, man. Anyway. Corey needs a rant hammer. I do. I need a rant button. Like that was easy button. I want something. Oh, my God. We need to design that in the studio. I want to hit a button, and it looks like the Hunt of Red October or something where, like, that lights dim and, like... that
the sirens going,
like it's everyone knows it's coming. I want that. I need that to happen so that it looks like we're diving, dive, and then and I would just do that all day long.
I know you would.
I would. Exactly. ACs equal Asian carp. Yeah. What's your favorite African cichlid?
Just about anything from Lake Tanganyika, specifically Cyprichromis.
Those definitely aren't my favorite. My favorite. What are my favorite?
Well, they're the best, but they might not be your favorite.
I think my favorite, if I have to pick a African cichlid, I really like Demasoni. I also hate them because they're so aggressive, but I love the way they look. And I love the iconic tank of like, here's my 55 gallon with like 12 yellow labs and 18 Demasoni. And yes, I know that's very overstocked and like crammed in there, but it looks beautiful. I love that tank. I've kept it a few times. I always get rid of it because I get bored with it, but I love it.
I'm getting pretty big into the Tropheus. I got the bug.
Yeah, I've gone through that bug. Have you done frontosas at all?
No.
Yeah, I did a lot of the blue ones, and then I did the red variant for quite a while. But I bred them for money, not because I like them. That's a big difference for me. You know, something makes me money, and then something is like what I actually like. Those don't always go hand in hand. And when I've been doing this for kind of the business for a long time, and so you end up keeping stuff you don't really like, but could be super duper profitable because it buys all the stupid guppies you do like.
I guess Michelle's question technically was, would you ever own? And I think I would.
Okay.
I mean, they're awesome fish. I just haven't come across the right scenario yet.
So the scenario I can think of where I would keep frontosas would be possibly if I set up a very large aquarium, let's say 500 to 1,000 gallons,
Yep.
and it lived with either A, Mabu puffer, or B, fly river turtle. Because they are like big, gentle giants, and they're a little bit of a night hunter, but in general, you know, I've watched like Bracharde and stuff like that beat them down. Like they're not, for as big of a fish as they get, they are not that much of an aggressor most of the time for me that I've ever.
For me, it's like you see some of the big ones that they get so washed out, and then there's some big ones that just look amazing, and I think I don't know them well enough to be able to pick out which ones are going to look good. And I know it all has, you know, care and diet and all that plays into it, but I don't know them well enough to know which strains are going to be the good ones.
I feel like a lot of the wild-caught colonies, like Blue Zaire and some of the purples and stuff, they look amazing, but that's because they've got wild-caught coloration of, you know, for the first 10 years of their life, they had natural sun and algae and all this great stuff in their diet. And then I feel like stuff I've watched be raised up from fry, a lot of times, like their pectoral fins that should be like this long are only like this long, so they're getting nipped on, because everyone always mixes it because it's such a long-term fish. Rarely do I meet someone that like, yep, I took 20 fry, I put it into a 500-gallon tank, and I never mix it with anything. Those tanks actually turn out amazing, but usually it's like, oh yeah, I've had those fronts. They've been with everything I've ever owned for the past 10 years because it's such a long-term fish that it gets boring.
And they should have the lyre tails, but you hardly ever see it.
Yeah. You know, yeah, and they get the streamer off the tail a little bit, but those big pectorals are amazing. They're kind of like altifrons, Geophagus altifrons and stuff. If you keep them correctly, their fins are mind-blowing, but most times we don't.
Nice. Now I kind of want to get some.
Well, to me, it's just like a convict. If you've ever seen a convict that has never been beat on by other convicts, it's a very, very beautiful fish with the leer tail on it and stuff like that. You rarely see it, though, because convicts are, you know, a random fish. Like, oh, yeah, just put it over there. Like, even I'm doing, like, just keep them over there. What do I care? I'll make more. You know, but if you've ever seen them, like, actually cherished by someone, they're amazing. Let's see here. Good beginner cichlids, cookie cutter setup. We recommended that earlier. Type in cookie cutter African cichlids into Google. I like yellow labs myself. How much would you sell baby convicts for? Typically in a store they go for like $1. You know, maybe even 50 cents. Mostly it's, I don't even want to ship them or anything. That's the bigger thing, is like make it easy. Let's see. Yeah, I'm running out of questions, looks like. Frontosa is the only Tanzanian cichlid in my aquarium. A lot of people do mix frontosas with mabunas, and see, I'm not going to go police on you, but when I look at diet requirements, a lot of times you're mixing yellow labs and zebras and stuff like that with frontosa. Frontosas are hardcore carnivores. Other guys are not. And then what you find is you've got like this big, strong oaf, and then the super agile 4-inch fish that could literally like go bite him and run a circle around him before he can turn around. And so he's going to lose the food race. He can get beat on, that type of stuff. So that's where I usually find it to be all, not all chewed up, but not pristine specimens.
It's like when you see the hawk or the eagle flying and it's getting bombarded by all the sparrows.
Yeah. So in Vancouver Aquarium, they have a huge African cichlid shop outside of the gift shop. Maybe a display. Yeah, I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
I like the African Cichlid display at the Shark Aquarium in Vegas. It's like a look down tank, and they had a bunch of trets and stuff like that in there. Yeah. How many blue dolphins in a 55? Yeah, the problem is, like, long term, they're gonna outgrow a 55, but
yeah, they
grow so slow. You've probably got 5 years of keeping like 18 of them in there.
Yeah,
like
I've been working on 5 of them for about a year and a half now, and they're still.
Yeah, they're a super duper slow one, which is what makes them so awesome when you do have them, because everyone that wants them goes, man, he put that time in, amazing.
That'd be another awesome setup of like 50 of them in the huge tank, just schooling around.
Yeah, my old boss used to have like a big breeding group of them in a 125, and it was always super awesome, always. Yeah, never did it look bad ever. Like on its worst day, it still blew my mind. So, how many African cichlids in a 60-gallon? If you're doing, most people are asking Malawi, I think, when they ask that question. So, what number would you tell someone? Regardless, like knowing, like, well, if you're choosing ones that are going to get 18 inches versus 4 inches, like, we're going to boil it down to, you're doing a mixed Mabuna tank.
So I think it depends. Is it the cube, or I think we're going to assume it's the 60-gallon Marineland?
Let's assume it's the 4-foot-long one.
Yeah, the Marineland one.
Yeah.
I mean, one, it's going to come down to filtration. So the more water changes, basically, as long as you're willing to do the water changes, I think you could do quite a bit.
Yeah, so when I worked at a store and that was a very, very common size, I would tell people to shoot for buying 25 to 30 fish, and it seems like a lot, but I know between here I am getting my 2-inch fish, and here I have my amazing aquarium of 4 to 5 inch adults. There was some attrition there. You lost some. You got too many males. You had to rehome some. And you want to end up, for me, I want to end up somewhere between like 20 and 25 adults probably, because I like a very active aquarium and I'll change a lot of water. But I find a lot of people, if you get down to like 15, 13, you systematically just lose them until you're down to like 3, because they just pick them off.
Yep.
Is what my experience has been. And when people didn't follow that guidance, a lot of times they would have like 14 of these things, they're doing okay, and they try to add one. The problem is you can't really have like 14 5-inch Africans and then throw in 4 2-inch ones. Like, it just, they're going to get out competed for food and they can just get killed. And so then you're trying to find other non-aggressive big cichlid, African cichlids, and people don't sell those. That's the problem, is like most fish that are 4 and 5 inches, people are getting rid of them because they're extra males, they were too aggressive. They're not going, oh, this thing, it's like no one gives up the best dog ever. Like, yeah, this thing, will take your garbage out for you. It knows how to go to the bathroom. It sleeps on the floor. It waits for you. You're like, no one gets rid of that dog. That's the perfect dog. They get rid of the problems. And that's the same thing in my experience with 4 and 5 inch Africans. Of like, no one's really getting rid of the good ones.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like when you go to the pet shops that take them in. They always have like their mixed tanks that ones that people brought in. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones I stay away from, because they obviously brought them in for a reason.
And that's, so I was always the guy that either A, I'm buying a wild caught group, or B, I want to buy 20 to 30 2-inch fry at a cheaper price and raise them up, and knowing I'm going to get rid of extra males and people that are too aggressive and things like that, knowing I have to cull the group down.
Well, plus, when they're fry, you know how old they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could be going in and buying a grandpa that's going to die in a year, and it's going to be $60 because it's an adult.
Right.
I'd rather grow them out.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts on keeping Cyprichromis and Shelleys in the same tank? He's got a multi-tank and looking for advice.
As long as the tank is tall enough. I've done it.
Yeah, I've got a video on my channel, the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society home show. It was the first tank ever I had. At that point, it wasn't, I had changed it into a shell dweller tank, but it was the 65 gallon, so it was real tall. And I had multis on the bottom, and I had Cyprichromis leptosoma. It wasn't Karangi Island. I don't remember. I don't think they had anything more than just leptosoma on there at that point for me, because I bought kind of generic-ish ones. But it did really well. Yeah.
Did the Cyprichromis breed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I didn't crank them out in that tank. Like, they would breed, but at that point I was learning. I was pulling the fry, so I would
Yeah, I feel like the multis would pick them off.
So I was using a big net that I had built, and that's where I learned their jaws, they don't really open this way. They slide out like a drawer.
Yep.
And what I learned is it's almost like, the best way to explain it is like if you had a lighter, that flicking motion, that's what you do. You get the fish in your hand, and their mouth is right here, and you grab them, and you do that motion, it opens up their whole mouth, and you can just let out the fry. The problem is, if you slip it all and they close it, it breaks the spine on the fry. And I stopped stripping the fry because I was getting too many deformities in their backs, and so then I always just let them spit in the big trap I made. We're talking like a big trap. And then my best system for sips, and it's similar to what I do now, is I had a 55-gallon that bred cherry shrimp, and they would stay down low, and then it was filled with Val, and then they just spit fry all day long. And so because they were spitting them, I wasn't getting any deformed backs, and I could sell them that way. And because they have such small mouths, they also couldn't really eat the cherry shrimp, so it was kind of a perfect thing. You know, that being said, I was keeping them at like 7.0 pH, and people are going, "It's a Tanzanican, you gotta be above 8, how dare you?" You know, but it worked great for me. They were both cranking things out left and right. Very profitable tank. So
yeah, the Cyprichromis, if they're in a community tank, I'll always pull out the females that are holding, just because they have very small clutches, and so I do everything I can to keep them all. So I'll take them out and put them in their own tank until they spit, and then I'll put the female back.
Yeah, I feel like a normal Cyprichromis clutch is like 4 to 7. I think that's, and if you got like 11, you'd be like, "Dang,
that's the
girl!"
biggest. That's the biggest I've got. Was 11.
Because I know I've cracked 10 sometimes, and you're like, "Dang, that mouth was huge!" And you can see them with the Cyprichromis. Their buccal cavity is so translucent because it gets so big. You can see the fish like, you know, just like going around each other.
Well, and then when they open their mouth, you can see like all the little heads inside too.
Yeah. So, you know, a 10 would be a huge spawn, whereas like...
My last one was 3. That was really disappointing.
Yeah. Whereas like maybe a yellow lab, a big spawn's like 70 or 80. You know, and some of those like ACIs and stuff, I've seen over 100. You know, peacocks for me typically were somewhere between 30 and 60-ish.
Yeah,
it just depends. You know, especially if you separated them out and you had all females in one tank, males in the others, and you fed them and really let them develop a lot of body fat to make eggs, you could really increase that number, but it was less efficient than just letting them breed all the time. So, yeah. Best algae eater to keep with cichlids?
I keep bushy nose plecos in all my cichlid tanks.
Me too. I see it online all the time that people recommend common plecos. I don't. And their logic is this, that they're big enough they can take the beating. My logic is bristlenose are small enough they can get away and not take a beating. Because they just like, "Oh, watch this, I'm in the crack."
Yep. I've never seen one of my cichlids go after a bushy nose.
Yeah, I've never really had the problem with that ever. And
instinctly, they don't really go after catfish.
Right.
Right? Like the Synodontis actually breed with...
Yeah, so it's a parasitic mouth brooder, yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh. So yeah, I mean, I would always recommend bristlenose, and we sold thousands and thousands, and I still recommend it, and people say, "Well, the internet says I can't do that." And I'm like, well, all I can say is, you know, at the store I worked at, we had 300 tanks filled with African cichlids and bristlenose, and then at home, when I had a fish room, it was all African cichlids and bristlenose. I would say if you really didn't want that interaction, my next favorite is Malaysian trumpet snails.
Yep.
You know, because they'll churn substrate, they'll get everywhere, they'll eat everything, and really you just want them... You want something in there breaking down African cichlid poop, or at least I do. You know?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, my goldhead compressiceps, they have their own cichlid stone, and they guard it. When any other cichlid gets close to it, they'll chase them out, but the Synodontis can just go, they'll just let them go in and out of the cave at will, and they don't even blink an eye.
Have you done any of the catfish that are the parasitic mouth breeders? Have you bred any of them?
No.
I've set myself up to do it a few times and never did it because I always valued the actual fish I was breeding. Like, you know, I never got something where I was like, "Oh, I don't want more of that." I always wanted the actual fish because typically if you're breeding a peacock or something like that, they actually sell just way better than like multipunctatus. I think that's one of the parasitic mouth breeders. And
the dwarf petricola.
That one actually is not.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I saw the way that one's bred in mass quantities
with the marbles or whatever.
Well, yeah, there's some proprietary technology I don't talk about too much, but Old World Exotic He had a pretty massive setup going. It was really cool. And that guy, he's good. You know, his last name is DeMasoni. That's because DeMasoni Cichlid's named after him. So it's like, oh, that guy, he's into Africans. Yeah. I'm hoping if we go to Florida, we can finagle our way back in there. Because when I went, it was hurricane. Like, it was literally like monsoon. He told us not to come because the road floods so bad we might not get to leave, and we had to fly out later that day. So it's kind of one of the we made it out, obviously, like here I am, I'm not dead, but didn't get to do any filming. I wasn't a filmer back then anyway, but it was really cool to see, you know, like, oh, there's a 400-gallon toad of Tropheus, and oh, Petrochromis, and you know, just all these rare wild caught, and then all the ponds of like, oh yeah, there's 30,000 Venusta cichlids, and you know, just you look down and you're thinking koi, and then you see a school of like big haps or something, and you're like, that's bizarre. It was super duper hard to see in though, because if you've ever looked into a lake when it's raining, it's doing this, you know, and so but you'd get this glimpse of like the group would come up, and you're like, well, that was amazing for the half second. You'd be like, you see that? And you're like, what? Like, oh, it was the coolest thing you just missed. And so it makes me want to go back. But the water was rising so fast that we were out in these ponds, and it's all like ponds in the ground. And then there's like, it's almost like we lay 2x4s down because it's all kind of muddy. And that's what you had to walk on. But by the time we're coming back, like, here's the 2x4 and here's the water. So water's up to your ankles, and we were just like completely soaked. But it was still amazing. And I would go back in a heartbeat. Because it was fun. I can't imagine being there like on a sunny afternoon. Like, and let me just like, because it's not miles, but acres and acres of ponds of African cichlids, and just, it's a paradise. And then all the runways, like, there was fish swimming around, you know. So that's how you can get hybridization and stuff going on too, is they can just swim between the ponds when floods like that happen. And we went to some other farms. And that's why there is so many fish to collect in Florida, was that when the floods happen, stuff gets out, and then it like, oh yeah, that waterway now just has that cichlid. And it was really cool to go to these farms, but then go look at any water outside the farms, and you'll see what's escaped and stuff like that. So that's what makes it fun. You know, you go to the Costco parking lot, and you're like, check it out, there's angelfish. You know, like, that's an experience we don't have here in Washington, so... speaking of that, though, I know they're looking for interest for people to go collect in Florida, and I want to go super bad. And I said, hey, let me see if I can drum up anyone. So I think it's going to be about $1,000, and that includes like 7 days. It includes the hotel room as long as you bunk with someone. So it's 2 people to a hotel room. And I think it includes like lunch and dinner or something like that. But like most of your accommodations, they're going to drive you around. They're going to guide you. There's going to have people that know the areas, all that kind of stuff.
I thought it said it wasn't food.
I think it was one meal or something.
I thought they said that no meals, but they said the hotels provide breakfast.
Maybe so.
So it's the continental breakfast.
That being said, you know, okay, so yeah, you got to buy your own food, but so it's basically $1,000. Plus you got to fly there, which for us, because we live in Seattle, it's like $1 billion because I couldn't be further from Florida. But it's like your only chance to collect fish and then go home and take a shower and use a real toilet. Like, you get the amenities of like, yeah, let's go have dinner, as opposed to like, I'm in the middle of the Amazon, I'm pulling leeches off. So if you want like that gateway in, like, my wife loved it. She loved it. Whereas I don't think she'll love Peru. She thinks she's going to like it, but I know she really enjoyed.
She won't.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure I'm going to enjoy it. Like, I'm going to enjoy the fish, but let's be real. After a whole day of collecting in the hot sun, you're dehydrated, to flop onto that, you know, hotel bed and be like, yeah, it's room service, let's do this. Because you know you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go collect fish again tomorrow morning. You know, I think I've only experienced that, and so I liked it. I don't know about, 4 o'clock in the morning waking up and eating my breakfast paku or something. Like, I don't know if I'm on the same, like, this is awesome.
I heard the guinea pig is a pretty big thing to eat.
That's right. Who knows? Like, that's half the fun, right? But I do know that I will rent a car this time. I didn't rent a car last time, and that was not as fun. But definitely there was way more cooler place to eat and stuff like that in Florida where we were, as opposed to when we went to Chicago. Like, that was
Chicago
crazy.
was a letdown.
Plus, there's other people I know I can reach out to we might be able to go see, like, I can't guarantee, like, if you guys come on this expedition, you'd be with me. But I can't speak for everyone and be like, yes, I can get us all into this or something like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say you can't go. But they could also say, like, yeah, you and one other person or something like that. So I don't want to oversell this trip of, like, Corey's going to make me billions or anything. Like, but there is a guy that has an outdoor fish room. I've shown that before. Carl Trochu. He's Miami Swordtails online. If you go to miamiswordtails.com. Some of the coolest live bearers ever. And if he's in town and not away on business, I would send him a message and see if we couldn't stop by. Because he's in Miami and I so badly want to see it. So... any reason I can go.
Guess we're going to Florida.
And I'm sure some of you guys live in Florida. We can meet up and, you know, you can tell me where the tacos are at and stuff like that. And it's cool to see the fish. The fish keepers in Florida keep way cooler stuff because they'll keep lots of predators because they just walk down to the creek and are like, check this out, 400 mollies. Watch this thing eat it.
So if we're going, if we're renting a car, would we have to go through the company, or could we just make our own itinerary?
We technically could probably make our own itinerary.
Because it's not like Peru. Like, they won't ship your fish back like in Peru. We have to pay for all that anyways.
Yeah. I mean, we could technically do it. I'm just not sure that we save that much money because I know, like, so imagine we're there for 7 days. It's bare minimum going to be $100 a night for a hotel. Like, it's not cheap. So... and
that's true.
You know, you do have to get... so the odd part is you have to get a fishing license. Like, just a straight up, like, I'm going to go fishing. That's the same license as to collect fish, oddly enough. But they do, you know, and they don't say which ones, but they say we get to go visit a major wholesaler. We get to do a few other things that they're lining up. And then I would imagine they're going to use some people from the Gold Coast Aquarium Society, and they'll be kind of touring us around just like when the ALA convention was there. And so I'm willing, that's the thing, is I'm willing to support someone doing something cool. You know, that being said, like if I looked at it and it's like, oh, we could do it for $500 each as opposed to $1,000. But I think we're going to look at it and go, well, turns out with... well,
I just wonder how if you have all these other places you want to go that's not on their itinerary.
True.
How's that going to work out?
You know, that's the thing, is they're trying to see if there's enough interest. And I just think... I've been to enough things where it's like, oh, we're going to do this from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. And then for me, I'm always like, yep. And then I ate till 7:30, and now I'm like totally ready to do something else. And I would love to go visit people's fish rooms and, you know, yeah, I don't know. All I know is I want to have some fun. And so if you guys are interested, maybe email me, you know, and realize it's going to cost you at least like $2,000 probably. You got to fly out there, and it's $1,000 to go. For me, it might be $1,200 to fly out there. I don't know. It might be a little less. I guess if I schedule it now.
I think it's like $600.
Yeah, that's not so bad if I schedule it now. I'm always thinking when I flew with the wife, so it's like it always doubles the price. I'm like, oh, geez, that's getting up there. But yeah, plus, I mean, hanging out with other fish people is just fun. So, you know, and I don't know if Ian Fuller's leading it or if Mike Barber is. I would assume Mike Barber because he lives in the United States. But for all I know, maybe Ian Fuller's going to be there too, which he's just a great guy to hang out with anyway. I don't think you got to hang out with him when he was here, did you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. All right, so we've been going for an hour. We're going to take any questions on top of African Cichlid questions. So, let's see here. Someone says I should do the middle color because that's gray. All right. Thanks for the input.
All right.
What is this? There's like a little bug in here. How about them Seahawks, Bob?
How about them? They won.
Yeah, I'm not a big Seahawks guy, so I didn't even know they'd won. Bob, you should have brought the green screen for this live stream. We knew someone was going to say that. Like, you should use green screening. I'm not big on the green screen myself. I like the natural look, and we still would have run out of time. We barely got lighting up. It takes a long time to scoop out all the gravel, drain the water. I wiped down the mold that was on the wall. You know, we did a little bit of filming. What part of Florida is the event located in? I don't know. Last time I went, it was at based out of Fort Lauderdale, but we traveled at like Alligator Alley, and then I don't remember where the farms I went to were. Like someone drove me, so I was like, all right, I'm along for the ride.
Well, I know you don't fly out of the same airport you fly into.
Oh.
I did read that.
So maybe that's something too, that they know like the good hotel rooms, or at least like, oh, we're gonna be fishing right next door to it, so we'll stay there. I don't know. Corey, when you go to Peru, will you be doing any off-roading with off-road Jeeps? I've never off-roaded, but I probably want to.
Sounds fun.
Like, I've never even really been on a quad or anything, so I feel like I want to do all those things, and I'm also like a chicken, so I won't own that stuff, but I would try it. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, Florida and Peru both have crocodiles and alligators, and you basically have someone on shore that's watching for those, because you see them. There's no joke. It's not like, oh yeah, there's crocodiles. Like, no, legitimately, they're like, yeah, 100 yards down, there's 4 crocodiles on the beach. Someone watched those. Not
to mention all the pythons that people let go out there that are everywhere now. Oops.
There's definitely stuff, and that's some of the risk. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna say that there's not risk there for sure, but
I feel safer in the Amazon and Peru than I would in Florida.
I feel pretty safe in Florida.
There you go. Short and anxious is gonna go.
That's what I said. She said she'd totally go, but she's afraid of the crocs and the alligators.
We'll protect her. Well,
you just gotta have like a Batman belt, right? Like, luckily I've got my alligator spray.
Depending on how short she is, she might get eaten.
And then, the weird part is so there's a lot of people that go and feed the crocodiles and alligators like chickens and stuff, because people are there and they're like, watch this, we can go feed it. So then there's always reports of like people getting way too close and like their hand getting bitten and stuff. Because they're like, look at this, I'm gonna feed this crocodile a chicken.
Well, there was that kid that got bit right outside the hotel. What was that, last summer or something? I don't know, something crazy.
How long before peacocks start to show color? I feel like it's months 7 and 8.
Yeah.
I feel like you say 6 months, but really it's 7 and 8.
I would right around that like 3.5 inch mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you guys are just tuning in, because I know we have way more people watching than we did earlier, make sure you go check out Bob's channel, subscribe, and leave a comment on his video from yesterday. And he's gonna
not the live stream,
but the actual video. He's gonna send out the solid gold calendar. Thank you from Jenny, because I bought one. She sent an extra one for me to give away. But while Bob's here, I figure why not have him give it away, and then I don't have to ship it. I don't have to feel bad that I forget for a week and a half to ship it. So. Yeah.
So basically how that works is I'm going to pick a comment at random out of the video, and I kept track of all the comments from before tonight, so they're not eligible. So if you left a comment already, you're going to want to leave another one, and then I'll just ship it out.
Sure. Let's see. I feel like I could come more prepared for Florida too. Someone's saying catch ghost shrimp and native mollies. I did bring native mollies home. I didn't have nearly the fish room I have now. Like, I could really do some serious prep. I feel like last time I went and was not prepped, then came home with fish and tried to get prepped, and I lost fish that way. But there's lots of killifish. I mean, there's everything there. But I went with one goal last time, and that was to catch my own wild-caught Belisonics, the pike livebearer. And we didn't get any because I kept getting outvoted. People wanted to go catch other stuff, and I was like, all right, I didn't have to force the whole group to go my way. But we only collected for... It was like 1 day or something like that, because it was part of the weekend convention. It was only 3 days, right? So 7 days. You best believe I'm going to find some of those, even though I've seen them now, and they're like, they're not even, they're just on my bucket list to do, I guess. Like, I want to catch them and I want to bring them home. So, I do think it would be cool to bring home some head-rated Formosa, like my own wild caught, because they're from there. Mm-hmm. So, I think that'd be cool. Let's see. We've got a 24-inch flue wall fresh on my 40 breeder and CO2. The growth I'm getting plant growth like crazy. Thanks for the review. Oh, good. I thought it was a question, and then I realized it was a statement.
That didn't go where I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay then. Yeah. How many guppies for a 10-gallon? I would start with like a maximum of 6 and let them breed.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
I'm trying to... I paid for my koi guppies, and I'm trying to buy more, but it depends if someone else backs out of their auction or not. Then I'm hoping to get 6, because I'd much rather have 6 than 3. So, Bob, do you happen to be Bob the Builder?
Nope, he was named after me though.
Oh,
fun little tidbit.
Corey, any interest in Jack Dempsey's? that's really low on my interest level. For some reason, I've never really been drawn into it. Maybe like a pink one, maybe, but I don't know. In general, any Central and South American cichlid that gets over 3 inches is almost like a turnoff for me. I don't know why. In general, I'm just not that into it. Not for like a great reason or anything either. Yeah.
I bet Charles might be down to go into Florida.
Yeah?
I don't know. We just scrolled past his comment. He mentioned something about it.
Oh.
Charles fish tanks.
Yeah, you'd like to collect some wild sailfin mollies? Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see. Tank number 2. V-Steak only has 1 tank. I feel like I saw you in Tank Talk or something. I assumed you had a bunch of tanks.
That's because he's everywhere.
Yeah.
He follows everyone. It's awesome.
But what are my thoughts on the Fluval Flex 15 gallon? I think they're pretty cool. We have them in the store. I've been selling some. I'm not huge on the fact that they got the slits in the sump area because I feel like those don't work that well for, what do I want to call it? Like shrimp and small nanofish, which the 15 gallon's kind of perfect for that. But if you keep anything like, guppies and tetras and stuff like that, it'll be great. Yeah, I think it's a well-built tank. I think apparently I've got like the best price in the world on it because I sell them for $129.99 and everyone just like jaw drops. But that's my normal markup. That's the thing is like, if you come in and you ask for, a 180 gallon aquarium, we only mark it up X%. And that one's only being marked up X%. And somehow it's way cheaper. I think a lot of people are trying to capitalize on it's brand new. Let's gouge people. But mine are cheap, in my opinion. And other people's opinion too. So, is there a difference between wild caught and farm raised? Well, for rainbow fish, a lot. The word on the street is most farm raised rainbows are going to be hybrids.
Hybrids, yeah.
So that'd be a huge difference. But for a lot of fish, not really. You could make a case probably with me that farm or wild caught is better for certain species. A lot of times I actually like a hobbyist raised strain better, like someone that took it and bred it for a long time, made it really good. But
yep, my Gary Lang rainbows look way better than my farm bred.
Yeah. How do you get Jungle Val to grow? Mine is not growing. What fertilizers should I use?
Well, I use Easy Green. Yeah. But one thing I find with Jungle Val is it takes a long time to establish. Mm-hmm. And then once it does, it spreads like wildfire.
Yep, so the other tip I might have for you is it does like calcium. So if you have harder water, that helps. If you can put some more calcium in the water with like a Wonder Shell or maybe a Ragonite or something, it likes that. I've had some tanks do well with it long term, very long term, with just fish poop, but it takes a lot of fish. And it's much easier with fertilizer, but I always like to be devil's advocate of like, you don't have to buy my product. It can be done without it, but especially if it's taking forever now, it's probably because you're not having the fertilizer. You can watch that ratchet up quite a bit with some normal fertilizing. It doesn't have to be my
I can take it out of a tank that's just super thriving and like move it like one tank over, and it'll take months before it starts going again.
I feel like once it gets that root base going, kaboom, it goes, and it can just keep spawning off of that. But without that, it struggles. But yeah. Can a sponge filter be a good main filter for a cichlid tank?
I do it.
All mine are that way too, yeah.
Yep.
So I would say yes. Hey Corey, I've got a 65-gallon tank with a desert goby, but I want to try shrimp. If I have enough hiding spaces, do you think it's possible / a good idea? I don't want to buy expensive live food. I feel like odds are against you. I mean, I'm not going to say it can't be done, but...
Definitely against it. You're going to want a ton of plants.
I feel like the answer is set up a 10-gallon and you have like a way good setup to do that. Yeah, I mean, it could totally work, but at the same time, if you're worried about the money, then don't do that idea.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bad idea there. Brian's opinions, comments. Would you be willing to talk at a local fish club? Club would cover some of your expenses. Yeah, Brian, I'm scheduled to go speak in California, I believe in March, and then I'm also speaking in Michigan in November. So I've got 2 of those already planned up. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how many a year I can do, but right now I still have open slots. I don't think I would do more than like 1 a month. And I've done it before, and I do plan on doing it some more. I want to do it, so I fly out and I talk to a club, but then I go visit all their cool fish rooms and make you guys great content. And then I'm hoping I can film the actual talk and provide that to you guys too. I kind of want to do something which I find most speakers don't do, and never get the same talk twice.
So what are you going to talk about?
So in California, they want me to talk about, I think the topic of I can't talk. The topic I'm going to speak on is true confessions of a fish store owner. They want to know what it's like to actually own a store, how to open a store, how to run a fish business. And that's for the Pacific Coast Cichlid Association, like PCCCA or something like that. It's like 3 C's in a row. Like it's a lot of C's. And they're kind of, I guess, I don't want to say older, but they're into cichlids and they're more business driven, and that's what they want. So I'm going to deliver what they want. And then it's been requested at the Grand Rapids, Michigan talk that I talk about puffers. And I feel like I could at least shed some light on Maboo puffers and all the ones I've kept. There's going to be a lot of puffers I've never kept. But I feel like most people are shocked there's even freshwater puffers. So I can definitely share quite a bit of knowledge when it comes to that. So, yeah. And that's what was requested. So, I kind of open it up when they say, like, what can you talk about? And I go, well, have you seen me on YouTube? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, you tell me what I need to talk about. I'll tell you. Like, if they chose Madagascar cichlids or Daniel breeding or something I'm really not well versed in, I'd be like, you should find someone really well versed in that.
We want you to talk about pipefish.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I worked with Bill and we bred those things, and, it was a real pain. I know probably more than a lot of people, but I feel like there's probably 5 German guys that live, eat, and breathe pipefish. So you would have them out if you really want to know about pipefish versus me. But I can fill 45 minutes of entertaining pipefish talk. I can do it, but I don't feel like I'm the right person to do that talk.
Braden's Bettas wants to know how many guppies in a 25-gallon cube. I need to stop doing that.
I would start with the same thing. 6.
I would start with probably a dozen.
I always start with 6 because I'm always starting with more expensive ones, and I'm just like, I only want to pay for 6. But if it's just assorted, yeah, sure. 10, 12. I always want to do much less than the max because I want to breed my way into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which club in Michigan? I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. If you want to answer a question, I can look it up.
He goes to so many he can't keep them all straight.
That's right.
Corey of All Trades wants to know, Bob, did you get your sips and multis at local fish stores or ordered online? If you ordered, where did you order from? My multis came from a local breeder, and my Cyprichromis came from cichlidlovers.com. So, both local and ordered online.
And I want to chime in on Braden's thing because the question actually says ignoring breeding. So that's more like,
right.
To me, that's like how many tetras. Like I would do like 40, probably, like at least. I mean, it might be more, but like a lot.
Yeah. I think it's better to start with like 12 and let them breed.
Yeah, me too. I just
Cheaper.
assumed we were doing that. But if we're not doing any breeding at all, which I think you should, Braden, because I think you can handle it just fine, that's the way I would do it. But I did find the club that I'm speaking at in November will be the Grand Valley Aquarium Club in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So, Yo-Yo Loach won't touch hair algae. Flying Fox will. Yep, Yo-Yo Loaches are carnivores. Flying Fox, I'm not convinced they'll eat the algae. Siamese algae will.
I've never seen a flying fox. I've only had one, but I never saw them eat algae.
I've had them, and I think they've eaten some algae, but they're pretty poor at it, in my opinion. Andrew says, one of my dreams is to have a large colony of Tropheus morai. With the fry being raised alongside the parents, how would I do this? I know how I would do it. How would you try it?
I would buy a large colony and stack a bunch of rocks.
Yes, that's exactly how I'd do it as well. I would get like your 240, and make one side just nothing but a giant stack of rocks. Females are going to go spit the fry out over into there, and I'd make sure I fed fry food so it fell into the rocks over there, and then bigger food on the other side. And usually, whenever you want something to raise up in the tank, if it's not happening for you, make the tank bigger and offer more hiding spots, and just keep doing that until eventually it happens. Because at a certain point, you've made nature. Sure, that might take 10,000 gallons, and now you're breeding Dovi as a colony or something, but eventually you'll get there. And so a lot of times we're just doing it in too small tanks. Let's see. Yeah.
Don't even say it. Don't even say
Yeah, that one's trolling me too hard. I can't even. My brain was hurting on that.
That caught us both off guard.
What is the best heater for a 60-gallon tank? I feel like most top-tier heaters equally suck.
Yeah. If I was forced to buy a heater, it'd probably be the Aquarium Pro.
Yeah, I like that heater. I also like the Fluval ones. I like Fluval heaters because they actually warranty them. Like, a lot of companies say they will, but for me at least, all I have to do is tell my rep, this thing's broken, and they say, give a brand new one to your customer. And that makes it really easy for me. Not make your customer prove it to you or anything like that. He just has to go.
I will say Aquion's been very disappointing when it comes to that. Very disappointing.
I like their heaters, don't get me wrong, but I've never had to, like, RMA one. But with Fluval, so I had one that my customer didn't like. We're not even convinced it doesn't work, but Fluval said if they don't like it, refund his money, we'll refund you. And, like, that's huge customer service for me, and that's the customer service like I was able to provide to my customer of he didn't like it, and we refunded his money, and it didn't cost me anything. It makes it really easy to stand behind a product when they'll help me do that. So.
And for the non-retail people, RMA is when a customer brings in a defective item and you have to ship it back. Yep.
I just assumed everyone knows RMA because, like, when are you sending stuff back to Amazon? Dang it. This isn't what I wanted. But yeah. Minimum tank length for Cyprichromis?
I don't think as adults I would keep them in anything under a 4-foot tank.
I've got my adults in 3-footer, so that means I'm a bad person. But I feel like if I was breeding it, I could do it in a 20. I could do it. I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying I would do that, but I could do it. I think 40 breeders are okay for small colonies. That being said, if I was like, oh, let me set my room up to breed Cyprichromis, it'd be 4-foot tanks all day long because that would make sense.
Well, not even to even to keep them, because I like to see them actually swimming in large schools, just back and forth.
See, that's the difference for me. Is like my fish keeping hobby is all about breeding. Like it's different than most people, and so I just like, don't get me wrong, I look at my fish, but designing the ecosystem is 50 times more exhilarating than watching them. Like, because I can watch them at any point, and I want to watch different things happen. It's like, oh, the algae, how am I going to beat that? The constant problem I'm solving is fun for me. Best way to catch bristlenose that keeps hiding in my 3D background.
I would put down like cucumber or zucchini and wait till he came out and eat it and scoop them up.
So there's that option. The other option would be like get yourself like a 2-liter bottle. This is not a 2-liter bottle, by the way. I'm not a giant. But if you cut off this part and invert it and then cut some of this off so that it had a bigger hole, typically they'll swim in and then it's harder for them to get out. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit there and you're going to watch and go, he finally went in. And then when you go to grab him, he can't instantly just dart off. And that's what you want. The other trick you can do is you can kind of put, zucchini or something like that in a net. When they get in there, you just lift the net. But you can also get them trapped in the net a little bit, but usually you can get them out. Cole brings up a good point. Heater controllers. Definitely, that's one way to add a layer of security to your heaters.
But I feel like if your heaters are so garbage and I have to buy a heater and then another product on top of that, like I got to buy a car and then I got to buy a truck to tow the car when it breaks down. Like, why do I got to buy all this stuff? Why can't they just make it good? We have the technology.
I agree.
It's frustrating.
Fluval E-Series heaters are freaking awesome. They are. We sell them on our website. I'm sold out of the 200 watt, and even Hagen's sold out, so I can't reorder. That's what a lot of people would be surprised about. A lot of times when like I'm out of something, or even just any retailer is, it's the actual manufacturer's out. Like you would think like, oh, Hagen can't be out of those. Like no, they run out. You know, they're human too. So it's weird when you're going, oh yeah, I could sell 100 of those a day. Too bad, can't buy them. What plants for a guppy tank? Pick one. You can only use one plant in the tank.
Guppy grass. That's all I use.
I would use Vallisneria. If I could only use one plant, I'd use Val. Just because I feel like while I was in Chicago, if I wasn't feeding that tank, I would like kill off that guppy grass. And Val would make it through. Val will make it through anything. Let's see. Danny's Aquarium is only 14 subs away from 17. Or 700. That seems pretty easy. Like 14 people out of... How many people are watching this? Like 12?
13?
Yeah. I'm on the wrong thing here. I don't know how many people are watching this. Apparently... Oh, because I went and looked up my email. I was like, why is this not working? 340 people. So if a small fraction check out his channel, he'll be a very happy guy. Are bristlenose part of the armored catfish family? Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. What's my favorite canister filter? My favorite... So, I feel like I've had a decent amount of canisters to play with high-end ones now, being that we just took off, the 1500 XL Eheim, and then I have the other, like, ridiculously big Eheim in my living room. My favorite is still the Fluval FX6. Which, now that I've tested them, it's like, that's even more, like, homage to that one. So it's FX6, and then if it drops down to, like, what if I only want to do a 75-gallon tank? Then...
FX4?
Maybe. You know, but let's say I was doing guppies, and I really didn't want that flow. I feel like the FX4, it's a good deal. Like, at a PetSmart price, it's a great deal. Yeah, for sure. But at, like, a full normal price... You know, like when it's not on sale, I feel like it's a bit overkill.
Yeah, you can get the FX6 for a few bucks more.
Right. So that's where I'm like, maybe I just go with the FX6. But I used to hate on them quite a bit, the Fluval, like 406 line. It wasn't the 406, though. It was like the 403. And it's because their bracket that held in the impeller, those clips would snap all the time. They fixed that problem. And so now I don't hate on them nearly as much. I think that's the best one I can recommend for people just to go buy. Lately, there's been problems with the Sun ones with the UV kind of melting through the plastic and stuff, and that's not very good. You know, it takes like a year for that to happen. So, but yeah, that's my general thoughts. And I want to say, Inventory King, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing one of your DIY videos. Oh, it won't let you cover over to see if they're... I think it's Inventory King. I watched your video, I think.
That's the new chat. You can't click on them anymore. It's frustrating.
Let me see if it is...
I'll email my contacts at YouTube when I get home.
That's I'll change this.
Well, I have someone that responds to me every time in like 5 minutes. It's pretty amazing.
Is it this guy's channel or not? I can't tell. No, it's not. It's another guy's channel that he's got a sweet DIY video that I'm gonna do. It's he made a temperature like a thermometer basically to run inline on the Python.
Someone in the chat probably knows.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people have been talking
He's
about
not
that.
active on his channel at the moment, or at least that I had seen. But I do want to do it, and then I want to shout him out and be like, this guy invented this thing. It's awesome. I bought the sensor on eBay for like $11. It's pretty good. So yeah. Corey, I want to keep guppies in a 15-gallon tank for breeding. What guppy should I keep and how many? Pick a strain you like. I mean, if you're like trying to really maximize, you know, your yield, maybe like Tiger Endlers or something. But for the most part, it's pick a flavor. You know,
pick something.
It's like asking me like, what's the best candy bar? You know, like what are you gonna like to eat? I don't know. Pull one off the shelf, and you'll probably be like, hey, that's chocolatey and peanut buttery or good or.
And then the next day it could be something different.
Yeah, exactly. So. Why do most stores say sponge filters and underground filters suck? because they don't have replacement parts and they don't make very much money.
They can't sell you cartridges every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's you gotta think about someone's bottom line. Yeah. Was thinking of using some crushed oyster shell from bagged chicken grit to raise pH and GH. Thoughts? Yeah, it'll totally work. There's actually someone working on an article where we were finding it, and I still need to, I'm way behind on the blog, but we're going to, I think, publish an article on chicken grit and stuff like that used in an aquarium and cost reference and stuff like that. Basically, it boils down to tons of manual labor to rinse it clean versus saving money versus just buying your way through it. Is what it boils down to mostly. Plus, chicken grit, or at least the oyster shell, dissolves much faster. Like a year later, it was gone when I used it. I used it one time. I'm like, whoa, that really dissolves quick, doesn't it? Comparatively.
I have that problem with Wonder Shells. They're gone in like a week.
That's the thing. Like on the package, they're supposed to be, lasting like a month, but our water is so soft. I'm pretty sure it dissolved before it hit the bottom. What's the minimum size for Mubu Puffer? In my opinion, if we're talking long term, my opinion is a Marineland 300-gallon double deep is the minimum, I think. That being said, I've only ever owned one for 5 years, and I think, like my tank right now is a 4-foot front to back depth. If he actually hits 3 feet, I will upgrade him out of, I want him to look even more cool. And a bigger tank will do that, and I think he would enjoy it more. But it might come down to, what's the minimum size for a human? Some people can live in a tiny house. It's like 70 square feet, 7 by 10. That's this room, essentially. And then some people need, 1,400 square feet or 4,000 square feet. So more is kind of always better. And I think water quality is the hardest thing you'll be up against. But, if you had infinite water change going on, you probably wouldn't run into too much problem. There's my pen.
That's gone.
Let's see here. Would it be alright to keep black phantom tetras with neocardinia shrimp?
I feel like they'd prey on the shrimplets.
Yeah, I think they'd eat some. I think it's all how you had the tank running, what would be your success rate or not. Yeah.
Lots of plants would help.
Yep. At Bob, you're making me start to hate hang-on backs, even though I only have one AquaClear 20 running.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of hating on them lately.
Yeah.
Because they're garbage.
I think everything's got a use in the right scenario. To expand my horizon, I ordered a bunch of in-tank, those Fluval U-Series heat filters, because I haven't played with those ones much, and I know they're really popular overseas in the UK and stuff like that, and so I get asked questions about them all the time, and so I'm bringing them in just so I can either learn to love them or hate them, but at least learn about it so I can go, well, here's the tweak I would make if I owned that. And that's the thing, is I always say use what you own, because nothing is that much better than something else. Like if you own an AquaClear 110 and you're going, which other filter should I buy for my $100? The answer is they're all equally within the realm of don't buy another one. Maybe you could buy a different type because maybe you like a sponge filter better, maybe you like a canister filter better, but they're not different enough to scrap a $100 purchase or something.
The Ultimate says, do guppies do well with high flow or do they prefer lower flow?
Especially any of the ones with big tails, low flow. Wild caught / endlers and stuff like that can do okay in decently high flow. Yeah. Why doesn't Corey read anyone's questions? I'm pretty sure that's all we do for hours on end.
I think that's all you've done.
Yeah. Have we seen the new Seachem hang-on back? It does look legit. I haven't seen one in person. I was watching Pectec's video and I did a little bit of research on it last night. What did I not think was amazing? The gimmickiness of it. So it's got a heater holder, which is a piece of plastic that you're going to clip that heater into, and the minute you cook that heater on there, I feel like that piece of plastic's going to break. The other thing was they have a bunch of slits in the lid, and that is to increase the oxygenation of the filter. In my opinion, you've got a big open slit in the front. The few slits you made in the top is irrelevant. So, and that's some of their selling points. And I'm just like, yeah. What I do like, they've mostly modeled it after like an AquaClear filter. So it's, sponge and bio rings. They're using their matrix, of course, which I wouldn't expect anything less. But the proof's in the pudding. When I use one, it could be amazing, or it could just be like, yeah, it's all right. They teamed up with Cichlid to make it. All I can say is I stopped selling Cichlid because the quality control was low, and they refused to stand by their products for me. So I had to stop selling their canisters and stuff like that. So, if they're teaming up with their manufacturers and to do that, now that being said, Seachem might totally stand behind it 100% of the time, might be fine, but that was my fault. And that's why I haven't brought any in yet, I guess. A lot of times I'll wait for other people to go, yeah, these things are amazing, you should buy them. And that way I don't wrap up $2,000 in garbage. I could be the last one to the party and still make a profit. If I'm the first one, I could make a ton of money. I could also lose a ton of money, Well, it turns out their O-ring gives out after 3 months or something. Like, who knows? So, even though the O-ring would be on the inside because they run internally. But, I want to investigate. They've got I think it's a float thing. So, I think, in an AquaClear, when it gets too dirty, the basket starts to rise.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they've done, so they put a piece of blue plastic that it would hit that first and start rising it to tell you, like, hey, you're letting this get too full. So, in a roundabout way, like, you should be cleaning your filter before that happens anyway. But now you've got a little thing that, it's like, they should just have, like, this is bad, really bad, really bad, you're going to die. Like, as it scrolls up, like, warning, warning. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Could be totally awesome. Don't know yet. If they send me one, I'll play with it. If you're watching CCAM, I'll play with one. Hey, Corey and Bob. So, Corey, what is the plan for the koi guppies? Going to make any videos? Definitely, I'll make some videos on those. Not really any plan. I mean, my plan is always, like, breed them, look at them, drool at them, love them. Yeah, but no, like, grand scheme of, like, here's how I retire off of koi guppies or something, nothing like that. But like anything, breed them until I get tired of them and move on to something else that, I find on Aquabid at 3 o'clock in the morning, which those ones, a viewer told me about, so I was pretty stoked. I thought for sure me saying on the live stream I was going to bid on them, everyone else is going to buy them too. So.
Next time I'll have to drive up the price.
That's right. Let's see here. What do I like better, Penplex net breeders or top fin net breeders? I don't use any net breeders.
Yeah, I don't use them either.
Yeah. I find that sometimes you can get fry pinched between the net and the
plastic,
I guess.
That happened to me a lot.
Yeah, so especially with African Cichlid babies. So I've just never been a big fan of those myself.
I prefer the Marina hang-on.
Yeah, like the plastic. Yeah, for sure. If I'm going to use them, I'm going to use that. Yeah. Hi guys, from Eric. I just purchased a breeding colony of zebra obliquidans 3 weeks ago. They're young. My male has been beating up other males in tank, not doing so good at the bottom of the tank. Any highlights? Zebra obliquidans are beastly. I mean, that's Lake Victoria,
Angry fish.
Yeah, I
wonder how big the colony is.
Yeah, we don't know that. Lots of line of sight blocks. If you can take big pieces of flat slate and put them up so they have to swim around them and make like horse stalls almost. You can put big plastic plants. What I find a lot of people do is they get, if we use this calendar again, by the way, go subscribe to Bob, but they'll set something up like this as a blinder. Their tank's this tall though. Guess what? All the fish are swimming up here. It doesn't do anything. So you really have to get blinding stuff that will go all the way to the top of that tank, so they're forced to swim around it, and that will cut down on a lot of the aggression. And even up front, you can use some big plastic plants and stuff like that, and just divide the tank up into 4 or 5 sections. And one, it slows the fish down, and two, out of sight, out of mind. But yeah, that's a fish we actually lost in the hobby, the non-zebra, the normal obliquidan. Only zoos have it. And they won't release them to the general public anymore. Or not, I shouldn't say anymore, but we know they have it, and I could never find them when I was breeding Africans. I could never get some out to breed. So because everyone wants them because the zebras are much more common than the non-zebra. Best recommended media to use on the FX6? Probably what it comes with. I think they come fully loaded now. It used to be the old FX5s didn't come with media, but I believe the FX6s come fully loaded. I run an intake sponge.
Yeah, I haven't opened mine yet, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I didn't know you bought one.
Yeah, I got one on the Black Friday deal for $199 or something.
Yeah. What happened to the daily dose in one tank at a time? They are great. I have a business to run. That's what happened. Like, most people that do YouTube can barely do a video a week, let alone a video a day. And it was getting to the point where the videos were kind of weak because some days stuff just doesn't happen, So like today would basically be a daily dose video. We're going to show you how we moved an aquarium and I hung out with Bob and stuff like that. But the reality is I can't serve you guys online and answer all your questions and make a video every day. Like that I can't answer 500 questions and shoot 5 hours of video and then condense it down into 15 minutes and then edit that and get it out every single day on a reliable manner, especially when I'm going to go to Chicago and I'm traveling quite a bit this year. Like that's just not going to work. Because I already went through that of like, I'm getting on a plane. So I got on the plane at noon. I got off the plane. It was 10 p.m. And that was like, how do you make a video out of that? That would have been pretty bad. So instead I'm focusing on making videos that I enjoy and more live streams and more interactions. I'm out more in like Tank Talk Facebook group and stuff like that. And a lot of people see me go live on Twitter and Periscope and Instagram. So just because you're not seeing it necessarily on YouTube doesn't mean I'm not everywhere. We do live stuff almost all over the place. And really to be utilizing all of the stuff we're putting out, like we're doing the blogs now as well. So I've got my hands in a lot of different stuff and trying to manage it all. Meanwhile, launching new products. Meanwhile, shipping stuff out to you guys. So as the empire grows and I have more employees, will I ever go back to that? Maybe. I really think what I need to really make that work is a dedicated employee who films and edits me all the time. If I just had to be doing my job, someone filmed it and they edit it and put the video out tomorrow, that's sustainable. I'm always working. I can make that daily dose happen all the time, but I can't always find the time otherwise. So that's where those went. Yeah. Let's see here. 240 should be half terrarium for those turtles. That'd be neat. Yeah, that'd be fine. Be cool. Will Cyberchromes breed well in 55 with multis? I think so.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. How are guppy trained guppies doing for Corey? Doing great for me. I haven't noticed any problems. I don't think I've lost a single one other than the one that came DOA in the bag. Yeah. So people are laughing like hire a cameraman. I've literally been interviewing people. So like it's on the thing, but hiring the right person. I've got someone working on editing a video right now. The problem is it's pretty expensive to hire good people, and so we'll see how it goes. It's one of those things that it's not like we make an insane amount of money so I can just go, great, here's a $60,000 career for someone. I don't have that, but it could grow into that, and that's what artists never want to hear is like, don't worry, you'll get rich later with me, because they're so used to being burned of like doing all this work and it never works out. So yeah. LR Bretts, do you guys know that Corey's got videos of fish stores in Japan? It's true. I went to Japan. Right now, my family's looking at maybe a family trip to Australia, so we might do some collecting and fish store stuff out there as a vacation. We'll see. It's more of like my mother-in-law and my wife and that family, and then I'll tag along and maybe try and fit some fish stuff in there. Not like I'm going there to do this, at this point anyway. Yeah.
It's Alleged wants to know, how would you treat bloat? It says Malawi bloat.
Oh, okay. I was like, for what type of fish? What would I do? I would probably use metronidazole, maybe General Cure. So and I don't know anything around this, but let's say a fish has bloat. One, I've already messed up. In my opinion, I can keep Africans for years and years and years and never run into it. Usually it's overfeeding. People try and grow them too fast and they let them eat too much. Most people, when you see an African cichlid in the wild, they have sunken in bellies always because they don't get very much food. And yet, when you see African cichlids in most people's tanks, they look super obese, just like me. And so I try to ride that line somewhere where they don't look way too skinny, but definitely not overfed. And use stuff that's got high fiber rates in it. And so lots of, not filler, but lots of stuff's going to pass through them. And so if I did have one that had dropsy or bloat, Malawi bloat, I would probably take it into another aquarium so that way it's not getting stressed out by any competition from males or females, that type of thing. I would use Epsom salt in there. I would crank up the heat, and I would, I've forgotten the last, General Cure. I would do all those things, and the heat itself is kind of like running a fever. You run a fever in your body to break the bacteria. I'd be trying to kill off any bacteria in their stomach so that it would be creating more gases, which usually it's a fish gets constipated. The bacteria produce gases that are breaking stuff down that causes the body to swell by the time we've noticed it. So we need to use something like Epsom salt to hopefully get their digestive tract working. Could also be internal tapeworms and stuff, so that's where I'm going to hit with General Cure, and the metronidazole typically helps with a little bit of getting that, poo flowing again. And then if I was feeding, which typically I don't, but if I did, I would try a little bit of, let's say either peas with the skin taken off or like some Cichlid Excel Hikari pellets. And that's a big overall general thing, but I don't run into it very often.
I've never had it.
Yeah,
So.
I would put large amounts of money. Most African cichlid people way overfeed because they're trying to grow them, get better color, and just in general, the African cichlid market is very driven by what food you're feeding and stuff like that. Because it's, optimal color, in my opinion, is achieved with good water quality, non-stressful environments, and having mates to mate with. But mostly that, and really if you're really wanting optimal water quality, it would be actual sunlight as well. So, but that's the dream, right? Everyone gets an African cichlids because they love the colors, then they want the most color. So yeah. Is it true that Neolamprologus similis have venom? I mean, not that I've ever read, and I've kept similis, but
I've never come across that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I don't know. I've never run into it, though.
I've never even heard of that, so maybe.
Yeah, no ideas. How do you breed Severums? That's you. Have you ever bred Severums?
Nope.
Yeah.
Never.
I've done it at a store a little bit. It's always been on accident. We never intentionally bred them. If I was going to, I'd be doing some of the Severums that are mouth breeders. I think there's 2 species of mouth brooding Severums that I want to play with, but yeah, I just haven't. Yeah. How to breed Jaguar cichlids? It's like breeding Oscars and Jack Dempseys and stuff. Get a pair where the female's not going to kill the male, big enough aquarium, and then get ready for 5,000 fry that you won't be able to get rid of. It's pretty much how it goes. People always strive to do that, and then they do it, and then they're like, what do I do with it? And they're like, yeah, exactly. That's, people always, it's weird. Like, people will breed something, and then they're shocked when the store doesn't want it. And then I basically, or the store owner hits them with, if we wanted that, we would just breed it, right? Like, the fact that it makes 5,000 of them, if we needed Oscars, we would do that, But it turns out it's cheaper to pay someone else to breed them from, like, a wholesaler. And so they're always shocked when they're like, you don't want 1,000 of these things? I'll sell them to you for $1 each. Like, no one's dropping $250 on Oscars today. They're this big, Because in a month, they're that big, and the food bill's bigger. That's the bigger problem. And that's the thing with Jaguar cichlids. And most of those things is like the amount of food you're going to put into those things, it's crazy when you're growing them up. So, yeah, where are we at? We got about 8 minutes left. Do you guys recommend small crates made for fish fry or a divider in your tank for breeding guppies? I don't use either.
Me neither. I just use lots of plants.
Exactly. Plants. Plants make the world go round. FX6 on a 125. Do you need more filtration? Highly doubt it. I almost want to issue that challenge. I want to see someone that is keeping fish correctly max out on FX6 and 125. I'm not sure it's possible. Highly stocked African cichlid tank. I don't know that you could do it. Tilapia. I'm not sure. Koi. Without just having I have 12 koi that are 3 feet here that can't turn around. Maybe. But I'm not sure you could actually stock a tank with what someone would consider to be appropriate and max out an FX6. And yet I'll watch people put 3 FX6 on a 125 gallon because more is better, but I don't necessarily believe that to be true. Have I ever ordered from ATF on Aquabid? Yes, lots of times. Expensive, double shipping's kind of a bear, coordination's kind of a bear.
What's
Great
ATF?
guppies. All Thailand fancy guppies.
Mm.
And yeah, I think, I strongly suspect that's where Guppy Train's buying all their guppies, very similar strains. I've seen the wholesale list for ATF. I considered bringing them in when I was shipping fish, and I'm not planning to anymore, but I strongly suspect they're carrying their guppies, which would be very high quality, and the prices that he's selling for are a bargain because he's doing all the importing and he's bringing in, 1,000 pairs at a time versus you paying the import fee for, a shipment that they're only bringing in 20 pairs, and then you're splitting the cost of that, but then you have a trans-shipper you're working with also. So, how do you guys harden the water and get a high pH in Washington? Mostly just crushed coral for me.
Yep, that's what I'm going to start doing, but once I run out of the CCAM buffer, then I'll start doing crushed coral.
Flynn's Fish Room says, have you heard about gamma aminobutyric acid? I have not.
Mm-mm.
So I can't really talk about it. It says, please talk more about it. I'm having trouble understanding. I'd have to Google it to know. Maybe I know of it by a different name or a different compound, but those words that sounded like gobbledygook I just said, I am not familiar with. And a lot of times I'm familiar with the word I can read and just not be able to say it, but I've never read that series of words put together before, and I've read a lot about fish. So it's probably one of those things I'll be Googling tonight to go, hey, what is that? Bob and Corey, do you sell rainbow cichlids, or do you know where you can get them from? The Wet Spot. I think I saw them on their list last week. Yeah. How do you breed zebra plecos? Same as most other plecos. Get males and females, wait 3 to 4 years, keep them hot, feed them well, handle the aggression from the males.
Caves.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard. People think just because they're $9 million that they're hard to breed, but they're not. They just take forever.
Mm-hmm. That being said, I always finish that with, I personally haven't done it. So, you can call me an idiot. I haven't done it. But from the people that I do know that have done it, like my old boss said, it was just as easy as when he was breeding bristlenose. The biggest hurdle now is the money. And he would just buy them wild caught. And because they're already adults, they were super easy for him to breed. And so maybe our water, because it's softer, makes it easy. But, correct water conditions. And, here's the thing. Everyone always talks about which fish is hardier or not hardier, which is easier to breed or not easy to breed. For me, almost all things, when it comes to breeding them, are just as easy. Because when you boil it down to it is, did you make water parameters correct for what they want? Did you give them an environment that was stress-free? Did you feed them? If you answer those 3 questions right, you've made fry. You can certainly starve the fry to death and not be able to raise them. That gets quite a bit complicated on some fish. But the actual getting to eggs and having them hatch out, most species, pretty darn easy, save for a few of the like tetras, especially the ones that are laying them out of the water, some of the killies that do that. There's some things, but reality is you do A plus B, you'll get C, and then you got to go D, raise them up, and then you eventually get F. You actually get the fry. But it took me 9 months or something like that to do the Claro plecos, but I did nothing. I did it exactly the way everyone said not to do it, and that was I kept it with shrimp, I kept it with guppies, and I kept it in a 20-gallon aquarium, and I did it. And then you watch Ted Judy do it, and he does it where he's got caves, very low light, lots of catappa leaves, and lots of flow, and it worked for him. But everyone says he's doing it right, you're doing it wrong. Now I get to say, well, we both made fry. In my opinion, my way worked just as well as his because we both made fry. So, I strongly think I could breed zebra plecos. I don't have a desire to. I have a big desire to breed leopard frog plecos. They're the same breeding as zebra plecos are. That being said, my motivating factor for zebra plecos would be money, and I'm not motivated by the money when it comes to breeding fish because I want to do what I want to do. My wife would like to keep a zebra pleco, but she has no interest in breeding them. But for me, there's not too many fish I've run into that I couldn't breed that I actually wanted to breed. I'm trying to think of stuff that, There's some that I'm too lazy to breed. I'm too lazy to raise up German blue ram fry. I can definitely make eggs and stuff, but the whole like paramecium cultures and stuff is too much work that I want to do.
Me when it comes to rainbow fish, I'd rather let someone else do the work and then buy them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's holding me back from my Japanese rice fish right now. Breeding them. Don't get me wrong, I'm watching them swim around with eggs all day long, but one of the breeders that breeds for me, he's got some and he's raising them, and he's saying they're just as difficult as rainbow fry to raise. And I'm going, oh God, I hate raising rainbow fry. And so what I'm doing is I'm trying to keep them on just maintenance mode, not put too much body fat on them or anything. And I just want them to sit there basically. And then summer's going to hit and I'm going to go, check this out. Green water and plants, let's make more. That's my plan. Every summer, just make more that way and enjoy them as an outdoor fish. Bring them back in. That's my goal with that fish. Because nature will do that for me and I enjoy that. So I do want those giant, I just scrolled past it, but I do want some of those giant Bolivian rams from Imperial Tropicals.
I haven't seen them yet.
I don't even know what video it was, but it was in Dustin's Fish Tanks videos, and I swear those things were like this. Like in Bolivian rams, and I've heard stories for years that they used to be that big. And yeah, so. Does Bob have a website? He does, but I don't know if it's up.
Yeah, I do have a website, but it's not up.
Yeah. So not at the moment. I used to stalk him as a competitor, and now he's just a friend. So I found it before he released it. How big do tilapia get? Depends on which tilapia. Like Budacophora get 20-ish inches, but like Nile tilapia and stuff, they're more at the 14 to 16 inch range. I find there's some that only get like 10 inches, I think. But most tilapia, you can't move around here without a permit, so yeah. All right, where are we? We're at 7 o'clock. We've gone for 2 hours. Is there any... There was one try... One guy said we were skipping his question. I didn't skip anyone's intentionally. This new chat I don't like. It skips more than it used to.
Yeah, the new chat is terrible.
Because it's hard. It like hits a point, and then it won't let you scroll anymore, and then pretty soon it just goes kaplink. And so I can't help it skip some. So I'm trying to find that guy's question. I'm not skipping anyone by...
Does easy green affect snails?
No. In fact, I dose it in my tank with mystery snails. If anything, it's got some calcium in it, so the answer is yes. It would technically help. Technically. That's like saying McDonald's helps me. It's like it technically makes it so I don't starve to death, but it's also bad for me, I guess. So yeah, Corey, what plecos and corridors go best with African cichlids? Bristlenose plecos, bronze cories? I feel like cories might not be a good pairing. If I was going to do it, probably like emerald cories or Brocus multiradiatus, some of the bigger ones.
Bigger guys, yeah.
But I feel like if the Africans went after them, they don't have a defense mechanism for that. And I try not to pair stuff that has no defense with an aggressive fish. I'm trying to think if I can think of... I think if you're going with catfish, I'd much rather go with like some dwarf petricolus and Adonis or something like that. It's just a better pairing. They've got more defense mechanisms. So yeah. So sorry about the horrible problem. Like it seemed like the internet settled down for the last hour and a half. It was that first 30 minutes that it was not doing so hot, and I'd been having troubles earlier, but it was the chance of don't do one or do one, and we persevered through it. You guys hung out. Don't forget, go check out Bob's channel. Win this. I've already got one, so I'm going to put one on the wall. And again, check out his channel. Leave a comment, subscribe. Go check out Solid Gold. If you're into goldfish, go check out Solid Gold. Which I feel like if you're into goldfish, you better be into Solid Gold. She's been back for a while, making great videos. She's building the whole fish room. She bought a house. It's amazing. So thanks to her for giving me an extra one to give away to you guys. I'll be setting one up. Yeah, what else do I got? Oh, the bloodworms. I don't know how many people have ordered, but bloodworms, freeze-dried bloodworms. First 20 people, they get a free sample size. Like it's almost like a retail size, but I don't know how big it is. And I don't want to say it's just as big, and then it's 1/10 of an ounce smaller, and people go into a rage. So, what do you got going on next? You got live stream Tuesday? Is that what you do?
I think I'm doing it Monday.
Monday? So tomorrow?
Yep.
All right.
7 Pacific.
7 o'clock Pacific. I have nothing coming out, I think, until...
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've never seen that. Nothing coming out till Wednesday, is that right? Yeah. I'm considering doing maybe like a business segment on Saturdays, like a small business Saturday where I talk business. And yeah, it's going to be, obviously I own a fish business, so, it's going to relate back to fish a lot, but it doesn't have to. I want to talk about other people's businesses and stuff like that. So if that's something you guys would be interested in, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know if that's something you want to see. I'm thinking about making a different channel for it, but I don't want it to take away from this channel. And I don't know that I'd put out a video every week, but I want to further the breeding fish for profit. And I think it has to go into straight up just like some of the business principles, not necessarily like it only relates to fish. So, I think that's all I've got. I'm trying to think. I've got a cherry shrimp video coming out this week. At least that's what I think Wednesday's video is. And we got to do a little more filming because I don't have quite made a full video out of this yet. So maybe I'll harass you. Let us know what you want to see. I was thinking about maybe doing a fish room tour at Bob's house if you guys want to see that. I know I got to do the fish room tour here. I was thinking about having him film that, asking me. I think that's it. You work Saturdays? That's not good, Aranda, because that was the thing. Is my logic was most people are stuck in their 9-to-5 grind, and so they'd have Saturday off going, how do I start my fish business or my whatever business? I mean, it'll be taped, so you can obviously watch it later, but that's what I was thinking. Small Business Saturday kind of plays into that type of thing, and, it's one of those things that I'm a little leery of it because I don't want to come off as like, oh, this guy knows a bunch about business, But if you saw on Facebook, I got named best 40 out of 40 or under 40 for, in the pet trade, me and Phoenix, and then the person that basically invented glowfish, and then like a billion dog and cat businesses because that's what the pet trade is, right? But so clearly I know a little bit, but I think I can learn a lot from you guys. I know I've learned a lot from just talking to people already. And we could talk through my own business stuff, your guys' business stuff, and, just in general, I think it could help a lot of people. And then some inspirational stuff, like, go out and mow your neighbor's yard, you make $20 and go buy yourself some trophies. I use that thing all the time, but it's so true. If I needed to, I could go out tomorrow and I could find a way to make $50 probably somehow in my neighborhood. And they don't know who I am. I'm just a random guy be knocking on your door, be like, yeah, you got a giant mess there. For 3 hours of work and $30, I can get that done. And I think a lot of people let that hold them behind. They don't work on their day off or they don't work after their work. And I think we can build that into a community. So, all right, I got to wrap this up. I can see my messages on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and email piling up. And I want to get through those. I don't have to edit anything tonight, right? No, good. I can just... Oh, I do know if you're buying plants from us, we still have enough plants, but my plant shipment has been delayed. I got to look it up again, but I ordered plants. They were supposed to land Friday. Well, as of Saturday, they hadn't arrived. That flight got canceled. Then they got delayed to later in the day. That flight got canceled. They were supposed to land at 2 p.m. today, but I was with Bob. I haven't checked it. That could have been canceled, but this giant freeze around the country has slowed everything down. I keep getting tracking notifications from FedEx saying everything's delayed. And so like I've got more Phoenix, or not more Phoenix. Well, yeah, more Phoenix and more Fluval lights on the way. I'm sold out of some of those, but they're literally moving at a snail's pace. So money's just sitting there waiting to hit our inventory. But our stuff seems to be landing. We're using USPS, and that stuff's moving around pretty good. And I haven't had anyone have frozen plants or anything like that, so don't worry about that. We seem to be doing awesome, and I think, some people have seen that. So, all right. When will Easy Green be back in the larger size? Let me look, Jacob. It should be. I think I've got like 60 bottles of that sitting there right now. So maybe our inventory is incorrect, but I think it's already there. But I'm going to look for you right now. And we're working on a nano-sized Easy Green. We've got some thoughts on that. Yeah, so at the moment, between both variants, I have 237 bottles of Easy Green. So plenty of 2 liters, plenty of 16 ounces. If you've been waiting, it's there. And if you're ever waiting, by the way, just go and go on the website. It'll pop up a thing that says we're sold out. Put your email in. You'll get an email the minute we put it back in stock. So don't worry about that. All right, for real, though, we got to go. I know there's dinner and that type of stuff, and I got to get stuff addressed. So Leave comments down below, email, Facebook, me and him will answer questions. We'll do all that for you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and yeah, I think it was a good time.
Yeah, and don't forget to comment on my Saturday video if you want to enter in the contest to get the calendar.
Yep. Well, let's get him to 5,000 people.